Eddington is the most divisive film out right now, at least for those who are actually going to see it. It's not that big at the box office right now. Nothing compared to Superman or whatever else is showing. I'm not entirely sure. But for those who are watching it, it's very controversial. It's dividing people, just like the COVID epidemic that is shown in the film. If you go on Letterboxd, you go on Reddit, you go on anywhere on the internet, you're going to see conflicting reviews. Some people calling it a masterpiece, some people calling it garbage, some people calling for Ari Aster to go back and stick with horror, stick with the genre that got him famous. Other people applauding his kind of odd trajectory and starting off with like low budget horror and going into these weird odyssey large scale dramas. Yeah, it's a lot. I haven't really seen a movie this recently that has been so all over the place review wise, especially coming out of Cannes, where the reviews are also very mixed, but I don't really pay attention to festival reviews that much, and I kind of forgot about it. I went to go see it and I watched it, and I'm like, okay, I feel like this is going to be a pretty, like, well-received movie. A lot of people are going to have the same opinion about it. And I get back, and I'm looking at the reviews on Letterboxd, and I'm like, wow, okay, how did we get here? For the people who haven't seen Eddington or haven't heard about it, it's basically just a film. It takes place during 2020, during the height of the COVID pandemic, and basically follows Joe Cross, who's a sheriff of small town Eddington in New Mexico, and he's trying to keep order during protests and COVID, and he decides to run for mayor against Ted Garcia, the mayor of the town at that point in time, and shit gets wild, it gets crazy, there's violence, anger, murder, it's a lot. And I won't get in spoilers now, because I do think you should just go see it, because it's a very good movie, a very interesting movie, a lot to think about. It definitely left me thinking a lot of things, and questioning myself, questioning my beliefs, and questioning just the country we live in. And I feel like that's a good thing to do when you watch a movie. If you think about it a lot, I think that's inherently a sign that the movie, maybe if you didn't like it, but it was at least interesting and thought-provoking. And that's a good sign. But I think some people don't want to think anymore, and I'm going to get into that. So basically, the people who are calling it bad or who are not liking it, there are people who just don't like it, which, like, fair dues, you know, like a lot of people didn't like Beau is Afraid. I thought Beau is Afraid was pretty good, but I definitely get why Ari Aster's style may not be for some people. I'm not gonna like call you an idiot because you don't like his movie, because you're just not the right fit for his movies, you know. And usually I don't get that mad over negative reviews, because it's like everyone has their own opinion, we're all different people, so what. But the reviews on this movie have just been so, like, I want to say dumb, but they have been really dumb. Like, they've never watched, like, a movie before, and they've never thought about anything before. I'm not going to pull up specific reviews or anything, so I'm not going to, like, call out anyone specific on this, like, video that's going to get 20 views anyway, so who really cares? Yeah, the people who are not liking this movie for certain reasons are calling it irresponsible, too centrist, that the movie doesn't bring up Trump or the MAGA people enough or whatever. They're basically calling it, saying that it's not left-leaning enough, and that it's too empathetic to these Republican characters, like the main character, Joe Cross. He would be a MAGA head. He probably is. It's, like, kind of implied, you know. And the reviews are saying that it's just, Ari Aster has nothing to say, nothing interesting to say, nothing nuanced to say, and he should not be making this movie. Another big part of it is that it makes fun of the left-leaning people too much, that it makes fun of the people who are engaging in the protests. Like, during the film, the murder of George Floyd does come up, and people do protest against it, and the movie is poking too much fun at these characters who are protesting and who are on the left side of the political spectrum. They're also calling it unintelligent. That's just not a smart movie. Which, I mean, they're also calling it too soon, which is like, it's been 5 years. I don't exactly think it's too soon. And the point is that it's too soon. It feels too soon because we're still seeing the effects of COVID, and people need to talk about that. Like, do you want to wait 20 years to talk about something that just happened? No, you talk about it now, you know. Now I want to go into why they're wrong, inherently wrong, and why they should just not watch movies anymore. Yeah. So the film, like, it represents, you have, like, the divide, you know, you see in the movie. There's anti-maskers, there's maskers, people trying to follow the mandate, people who are against it. Usually the people who are against it, who are shown in the film, are older white guys, like Joe Cross, Joaquin Phoenix's character, or some owner of, like, a local antique store, or the conspiracy-ridden mom of the sheriff's wife. who's just always talking about these weird theories and just a mean-spirited person in general. But also, since we are following Joe Cross, the sheriff, we do see a lot of different sides to him because people are complex. So we get to see his marriage, which is not the best at the moment, and we kind of feel for him. We see his interactions with other town people who obviously all hate him. And it's a bit sad to watch, and it's deserved, but also, like, he's a human being, And we see him interact with his other, like, 2 other deputies, the 2 only other police officers there who are just kind of following along just because they want to look good in his eyes. And yeah, so people are saying they're not harsh enough on these Republicans, but in reality, the film is very harsh on Joe Cross. He's not pulling any punches on him. Like, he is shown to be not a very intelligent person. He's shown to be an asshole. The people who are agreeing with him are shown to be not very intelligent, are just mean-spirited. In no ways is he a good person. I think people can get confused because he's the main character, and usually you watch a movie with the main character, he's a good person, especially in a lot of American films and just like more blockbuster movies, like more general audience stuff. Like, the main character is a good guy, so, or at least has some redeeming aspect. He may not be a perfect guy, but he has some redeeming aspect to him. And Joaquin Phoenix's character barely has any. Probably the best thing he does in this entire movie is that he, like, makes dinner for his wife one night and she doesn't even show up. That's, like, probably the best thing he does in this entire movie. And so it is still, like, harsh on these characters, but it's a story. It's fleshed out. They're real people, and they all feel super real. So going to the main issue of a lot of people is that they're poking fun at liberals, or just, like, the people who are, like, going these protests. And in the film, we, like, kind of follow kind of like a B plot. We're looking at, like, these young kids, like, teenagers during the pandemic, and they're all, like, out partying or whatever. And we meet them at, like, these parties, which they shouldn't be going to, but they're liberals, so they have to be perfect characters. But they're not, because they're humans, and especially they're teenagers who are inherently stupid as well. One of the main, like, side characters is, like, this kid, and he likes this girl or whatever, and basically starts getting to, like, liberal, like, far-left ideology just because he likes her. And he starts, like, talking about, like, white privilege, and at one point he's giving a speech, and he's like, I should not be giving this speech because I'm on native land, so after this speech, I'm going to get off this native land. That part is pretty on the nose, what they're making fun of. Like, performative, especially white liberals, who are just, like, doing these actions because they want to feel good about themselves while not actually doing anything important or meaningful to help the causes that they say they care about. And this is kind of shown, not exactly shown at the protest for George Floyd. In the film, these protests are not, like, shown to be a bad or stupid thing. Like, these kids, like, some of them mean well, the other half are just there because, like, they feel like they should be there. And, like, the main girl of the B plot the guy's kind of interested in, like, she's definitely a well-intentioned person. She definitely cares, but also at the end of the day, she is just a white woman, and she doesn't really know anything about, like, discrimination or racism because she hasn't experienced any of that. Because she lives a very privileged life. And Ari Aster's kind of saying, like, how can you exactly understand any of this when you haven't experienced any of it, especially in a small town when it's, like, a mostly white population. There's, like, another part of the movie where, like, it shows, like, her Instagram reel or whatever, and it's, like, the caption, it's in the trailer, it's, like, the caption is, like, when you read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, she's doing a dance. I think that kind of encapsulates the type of people that Ari Aster is making fun of, like Giovanni's Room, a book by James Baldwin, a black author, a book about, like, homosexuality or the lack of love, and she's just doing a funny dance over it for apparently no real reason, just kind of putting that book there to seem informed while not adding anything. It's like tagging your name onto something but not adding anything meaningful or important to the conversation. It's like you just want to be there because you want to be seen as cool or woke or whatever. I don't like saying woke. The word has just been, like, ruined because of Republicans, really. There's another good, like, scene where, like, they mention the black screens, when George Floyd was murdered, which, like, was a good, like, idea. Like, it's a good, like, murder of George Floyd was, like, seen all around the world. Like, there was definitely people were talking about it, and the black screen was seen as, like, protests on social media where all you do is just post a black screen on your Instagram account, which is, like, what is that doing? And that's what Ari Aster is saying. He's saying so much of these things are not solving actual problems, and it's not going towards anything useful or meaningful. It's just performative, and it's childish, really. And that's why a lot of these characters who are well-intentioned a bit, but also not impacting the situation in actual positive light, they're shown as teenagers because they're, like, young and they're stupid and they're learning. And it's Ari Aster is, like, not, like, fully, like, hitting them, punching them down each time, but he's definitely having fun with these characters because, again, they're human. you know? And the black screen thing also reminds me a lot of the all eyes on Rafa thing, which was when like kind of viral last year, I think, like end of 2024, which was of course like this like post people would make on Instagram or whatever, which was like talking about how like Rafa was like getting bombed or whatever by Israel who were doing a genocide, and people would post it saying like, we need to put our eyes on this, we need to know about what's happening in Palestine, which is like good, people should know about that. But you're posting an AI generated image on Instagram, which is just like a tech big tech website run by Mark Zuckerberg, who's an evil person who's ruining the environment, who doesn't care about human lives, doesn't care about workers, doesn't care about people in general. So what are you actually accomplishing? In a sense, you're posting something on there and you're just making the rich richer, who of course definitely have a hand in the genocide that's going on in Palestine, because for some people it's making them money. And another good like scene that happens during these protests is kind of we're following around this homeless man a bit throughout the film, who's kind of stumbling through town, and just like he's on drugs obviously because he's just shouting nonsense all the time. And we just kind of see him going around town and just kind of like interacting with people. And we see a person who's like in need of help, and he stumbles upon the crowd protesting for human rights. And he gets there, and everyone's like, "Ew, homeless man, gross!" And they just like kick him and like, ah! I thought that scene was very funny because an actual person in need comes over, and they're like, "Oh my god, no, ew!" Just because, you know, he looks disheveled and he's shouting nonsense and he's having a mental health crisis. And so that was very well done by Ari Aster. I was like, oh, And not just the teens who are shown at the protest, but also Pedro Pascal's character, who is the mayor of Eddington. And he's more liberal-leaning. He's very pro-mask or whatever. He, like, when Joe Cross goes into a grocery store without a mask on, he stops him and he gives him some mask facts, some quick-fire mask facts. But, again, he's not a perfect person. We see later Joe Cross is like, "Hey, 6 feet, buddy," because he's like, doesn't want to get close to him, and he just immediately goes over and he's just like right up in his face or whatever. So it shows he doesn't really care that much. It's just performative. And again, kind of like the main threat that I haven't really mentioned yet. The film starts off with like a potential building construction of a data center in Eddington that would apparently bring more business and prosperity to Eddington. But in reality, what these data centers do is they extract local resources like water, energy, all that stuff, and they just turn small towns into pits. And Ted Garcia, Pedro Pascal's character, he's kind of like very much going for that because he's being paid by these people, of course. And he's like, we gotta build this new data center. It's gonna bring so much business. It's gonna make Eddington alive again. And people question that, and it's actually someone who's like maybe more right-winging, and they question that. But he's like, no, guys, trust me, this is gonna be good. Which it will not be. Data centers are awful. Yeah, so basically, a lot of these people who are on either side, both sides, I know the dumb thing to say, people don't like hearing it, both sides are bad, but both sides, as we have seen throughout recent months especially, can be bad. One side's obviously worse than the other, but people on both sides can be bad, they can be fake, they can be performative, they can be hateful, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and humans most of the time are not very good people. They're selfish most of the time. Not everyone, but most of them. And we see that with Joe Cross, we see that with Ted Garcia, we see it with the teenagers, we see it with the other deputies. And a good example of just this performative activism and just malintent is Hakeem Jeffries, who's one of my least favorite politicians of all time. He's such a buffoon idiot who everyone was applauding because he talked for 24 hours. Oh, good job. It encapsulates performative activism and how talking for like 20 hours can be seen as a win when in the end it did nothing for the people of America. Like how Chuck Schumer renamed the big beautiful bill to the big scary evil bill or whatever he did. And he's like, wow, guys, look at me. Wasn't that cool? And it's like, no, the bill was still passed. He did actually nothing of note. And Hakeem Jeffries, who of course is like refusing to endorse Mamdani, who's getting so much traction, and he's actively probably hurting Mamdani's chances because he refuses to endorse him because of Israel, probably. I'm like, what do you have to do with Israel, man? Like, you're an American. You know what I mean? And you're supposed to be a liberal. And that just kind of shows this whole discussion around it, how people are looking at Ari Aster poking fun at certain groups of the left-wing party and saying it's irresponsible to do that and not to fully just focus on like Trump and MAGA heads. They're saying it's irresponsible. It's just showing that media literacy is dead. I mean, people just aren't watching books, reading books, watching movies. You're not thinking about things enough because of phones and what big tech has done to us by putting these things in our hands. And Ari Aster does a great job at showing that in the movie by like just him getting in bed at night, Joe Cross, and he just immediately goes to his phone. He just slides in bed. He's like, oh, phone time. And he just sees his feed, and it's so personalized to whatever you want. Like, it's kind of funny that he doesn't even know about George Floyd, even though the whole country does, because his feed is just so personalized to his like weird takes or whatever. So he doesn't even know. And Ari Aster is saying that technology, especially big tech, are putting us in these bubbles. They're dividing us on purpose because it's more profitable for them, because we can focus on identity politics, like should trans people be in sports? Should gay people like live, I guess? You know, we can focus on stupid stuff like that, which does not matter at all in the long run. So they can do whatever they want, like build these data centers across the country, which hurts the environment, hurts the local people, but makes them a ton of money. It's all just a distraction, a smokescreen for them to do whatever they want and get away with it. And they're getting away with it. I mean, data centers are still being built. I live in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, Nova, which is a fucking cesspool anyway. They're building more and more data centers. Like, there's this whole thing going on right now where they're planning on building a big data center on a Civil War battlefield. Yeah, but of course the politicians who are pushing it are saying it's going to bring business. But we don't need to fill everything up with something. Let just nature be nature. Let land be land. Let history be history. It's all just being done so more people can make more money, and it's sad. And people are being distracted by that, by involving themselves into petty topics, petty arguments, petty politics. This kind of reminds you of this book I'm reading right now called Carceral Capitalism by Jackie Wang. Very good book. I got it like a couple days ago. I'm already like 250 pages in. It's nonfiction. It's a very good read. There's a very interesting part where she's talking about late stage capitalism, which is where we're at right now as a country. And there comes a certain point where companies can only make so much money. They can only have so much of a surplus. They're like, what do we do now? Because in capitalism, you always want to make more and more money no matter what. Or there's a whole theory with capitalism that someone has to be exploited for someone else to gain something. So especially through like foreign countries or third world countries. So the world will never be all first world countries because someone needs to be exploited to make money. That's a whole different thing. But she gives this great example of Wells Fargo, which is a very predatory banking company. Shucks a lot about loans and credit and debit or whatever. And they talk about how Wells Fargo would target black people and minorities for these predatory subprime loans and mortgages, which kind of led up to the 2008 housing crisis, and how they call black people mud people, and they call them ghetto loans, these loans, because they're just targeted towards poorer black people and minorities in general. And they made more money off of it, yeah, because they're giving off these really high-risk loans that they knew they wouldn't be able to pay back. And that kind of relates to this, like, exploitation of people. It relates to what big tech is doing now by trying to find more and more ways to make money by using these data centers, and especially AI, which is just completely useless, but it's making money somehow. So they're going to build more and more data centers and exploit more workers and take away more public land, all in the name for a little more money. Ari Aster is aware of the threat of late-stage capitalism and the threat it poses on us, especially through the tech industry, which is shown here in Eddington. Because, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, the data center does go through, and so it shows in the end that big tech, these capitalists, have won at the expense of these people. I was watching this movie too, and I was thinking a lot about the Iron Heel as well, which I just have here too. It's kind of like, go read the Iron Heel if you haven't already. I talked about it in my other video. Go read it. It's predictable. It predicted what's happening right now. You should read it. As well as Carceral Capitalism by Jackie Wang. That's a very good book, and if you want to know actual issues that are going on in this country, you should read that book too. And you should go watch Eddington and go see if you like it. If you don't like it, at least go support Ari Aster as a filmmaker. Yes, he's already making a lot of money. He's well off. He doesn't really need the support. But more movies like these should do well instead of like Superman, which is just But at least it was anti-Israel, which is kind of cool to watch. Yeah, go watch it though. Form your own opinion. It's definitely a fun movie. I highly recommend it. Like, there's so much other aspects of it that I didn't talk about. So even though I kind of slightly spoiled it, there's so much to see. Go watch it, enjoy it, or not. Don't vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Support politicians who are working for you, not working for the money. All right. No, I'm not gonna do that.